Hello and welcome. I am Barbara Pianese, Latin America editor at The Banker, and I am here in Panama City at the Inter-American Development Bank annual meeting. And I have the pleasure to be here with Mario Marcel, Chile finance minister. And I'd like to ask you a few questions about some current topics. So the first thing is, of course, at this moment, I would like to ask you how is the banking sector performing in Chile, given that some international lenders are facing some issues?
Yes, the Chilean banking sector is quite strong in terms of capital and regulations. Our regulations adopted the Basel III framework a few years ago, so they're mostly implemented and they are applied to every single bank in the country. So we don't have the kind of concerns that have emerged due to this differentiation of capital and regulatory requirements in the US, for instance. Now, even if there was any further need for capital in Chilean banks, they had very strong profits last year, and in April they will make their decisions on profit distribution, so they can additionally capitalize if necessary. But I don't think that there will be some special effort in that regard. In any case, events like this create a lot of shock waves across the financial sector and the global economy. The impact that we have suffered so far is basically with the price of copper and then the effect of that on the exchange rate. But so far it's a rather modest impact, and we keep watching developments to see what else may be coming up.
Okay, thank you very much. And the other thing is about the tax reform that was not approved recently by the Congress. So I was wondering if, what's next on this topic and how central is this topic on your, in the government's plan?
Yes, the tax reform that was not passed in its first reading in the lower house of the Chilean Congress accounts for nearly 3/4 of the whole tax reform that the government put forward, and then that whole tax reform is about half the size of the social program that the government has for these 4 years in office. So it's an important component of the financing agenda. I think that there are a number of parties that contribute to vote down this proposal that didn't realize the potential implications that this might have. And since then, we have had a number of messages from different parts of the political spectrum, also from the employers sector, workers and so on, that are supportive of continuing with the discussion of tax reform. So we will be prepared to carry out a round of consultations with all of them to see what adjustments might be necessary to continue and to reinstate the discussion in Chilean Congress.
Okay, thank you very much. And something else that I read, I thought it was quite interesting that you were saying that what informs your economic policy, the economic policy of the government, is not what the traditional left would have advocated. So I was quite curious to learn about what are the principles, in a nutshell, of your economic policy.
Yes, traditional left in Latin America and in other parts of the world usually spoke about the nationalizations, fixing prices, closing the economy. None of that is a part of the agenda of the current Chilean government. The issues that are most concerning to our government have to do with inclusiveness, to recognizing diversity in the economy and society, with sustainability, particularly environmental sustainability, and also being more skeptic about the excesses that we had in the past of trying to move or to manage social services based on market structures. Many of these issues are pretty common or shared with other countries in the world that may have a different political orientation, but perhaps due to the past of Chilean politics, they sound perhaps more radical than they do in other settings. That is pretty much what we are working on. I think that we are making good progress on that.
And now we are, of course, at the IDB meeting. What do you think is the most important thing that came out of this meeting, and how do you think IDB and other multilateral banks need to potentially change to tackle the issues that the region has to face?
Yes, well, the most important decisions or signals that were issued at this meeting were about the capitalization of the private sector arm of IDB, IDB Invest. There is broad support for that, and given that the private sector is very important in our countries and should contribute to many of the development goals that we have. Issues that are opening up have to do with how international financial institutions may support countries in areas that are new, that are not part of the traditional economy, particularly industries that are emerging in the context of green transition in the world. In the case of Chile, it is not just copper, but also lithium. It is renewable energies and green hydrogen, which is for which Chile has been identified as the country with the greatest potential in the world. So we need these multilateral institutions to support with more knowledge, to support newly developing industries. And I think that that's something that has been shared by many participants in this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister, for your time.
Okay, thank you.